Okay, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. I first of all would love to just thank you for joining us today for Streamlining Client Cleanup Projects. We have Michelle Vilms here as our presenter. I'm Allison Ball, the marketing director of Liscio, and we have my trusty partner in crime, Lindsay, to help monitor the chat and drive the slides. So, Lindsay, if you could go to the next slide, we'll just let people just kind of think about it as we're going through some of the housekeeping here. So Michelle is going to be covering a number of topics today. We want it to be really interactive. So before I introduce Michelle, we wanted to kind of get you thinking about your client cleanup projects. So Michelle, let me turn this over to you because I know this is a slide that you're passionate about. You know, where do client cleanup projects fit into people's practices?
Well, I think they're kind of the unsung, not thought about job that can lead to long-term growth in your company. So small business owners, they need help getting their books accurate, but they don't always know where to go and they don't know what it's involved in. So cleanup projects are an excellent way really to get to know the client, know what their books are like, get them in order, and then sell them other services that you provide. So as we begin this presentation, I really want to ask everybody to be really open-minded on either the past client cleanups that you've done and start thinking about the examples that can fit into a standardization in your process.
That's wonderful.
Oh, and there's me. Okay,
There's you.
my name is Michelle Vilms, and it is my pleasure to be part of this Liscio Year of the Client webinar service. Vilms Consulting, we absolutely put our clients first, and this is just a wonderful opportunity to talk about some of the ways that we do that. A little bit about me. I am a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. I'm certified in QuickBooks Online. I live and work here in downtown Boston and have a firm of 6 people where we do outsourced accounting and advisory and training. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But as I put this together, Allison, it's my 10th year in business, and I didn't realize my anniversary was coming up, so I'm super excited about
Oh,
that.
that's so wonderful. Congratulations. That's a really long time and you just have affected so many customers and clients in such a positive way. Yeah.
So we're really excited about that, and our mission is really to have a really meaningful impact on how businesses operate. That's what we do as professionals, and so when people call, that's what we're going to talk about in the next few slides, the agenda for today, and how we can do that. And the mechanics of the work are really like our secret sauce that we don't even need to tell our clients, right? Lindsay, the next slide for the agenda today. Thanks for driving. So we talked about examining where they fit and how we're going to do that. We're going to talk about the client mindset and how we have to arrive the way they're showing up to us. I'm hoping that you keep an open mind about your approach, but really as we go through, Lindsay and Allison are going to send out these slides and a recording, so you don't need to take extensive notes on the content. But what I would like you to think about are examples that you have in your own firm that you can then slot into creating a standardized process. So and then we're going to talk about the common hurdles. There's going to be 3 stages that we talk about in the presentation, and then how you can go on to convert to new ongoing engagements in the future. And throughout the presentation, I'd really like to hear your questions in the chat. We can pause at different intervals and get your questions answered and help it drive the conversation about what you're interested in learning today. So on to the mindset. So the client mindset. So I absolutely believe that every entrepreneurial business understands how they make money and they know how they spend money, but they're not accountants. They're not tax preparers. They don't know about GAAP and why that might be important. And so we need to show up when we're talking to them that they've arrived with good intent. They've tried to set up their QuickBooks file and it's a mess and they need help. And so I always look at it from the part that they've arrived and it took them a year to get to me, but now they haven't used it as a tool in their business. And that's unfortunate. And it's our job to educate them and to talk to them about how that can be better. So it's all about the empathy and the reassurance. They're not accountants, they're business owners. So let's start from there. Next slide is this general approach. And so I absolutely believe that it is a tool to be used in your business, while most small business owners might start out thinking they just needed to get their taxes done at the end of the year. And so that's short-sighted for them, but they don't know that. And we need to teach them how they can use these tools. The clients are frustrated. They thought it was going to be quick and easy. So let's show up that way and give them some relief and talk to them about how we're going to be able to ease their mind, have it be a workable technology that they can use in the future. And so that is my goal. And so the way that we have set this up is that we're slowing down the process. So that's where I would like to start when we talk about okay, so here we are. So next, before we jump into the actual process, I'd like to talk about the hurdles. That's where you come in. Think about some of the hurdles you've had in your own process, and we're going to show you how to straighten that out into a really productive, standardized process. So the first hurdle is the person calling you has never met you. They know what they saw on the internet or where they got connected with you, whether it's through the QuickBooks directories or LinkedIn or something, or even a past client, but they don't know you. And so they just know this is going to cost money and they don't really see the value in it. So that's the opportunity. We're going to need to get documents from them. That's a hurdle. They don't even know where their documents are. They may not even know how to log into their bank account. So that's a hurdle. The clients are busy and they don't really want to do this, but they know it's a have to in their business. And then on my side, when we take on an engagement, how can it be delegated? How can it be worked on in the most efficient manner that everybody knows what is going on with that engagement? So you need that. You need security. Security is a top important step. People email you things all the time, and you need to have a mechanism to stop that. So I should have mentioned earlier, we do use Liscio as our communication platform. And we're going to talk a lot about that as we move through the presentation. The system needs to be easy for people to use. They're not using our systems. We need to be helpful and get them engaged in how to give us the information we need in a seamless process. And then we need to continue to improve our process with each engagement and example that we get. And it can be done, and we're going to show you how to do it. All right. So there are 3 stages to a cleanup. And many of you have done cleanups, and I'm going to ask you to be open-minded about your process and how you've done it and how you might do it in the future. Definitely open to recommendations on my own process. And so we're going to talk about onboarding, slowing it down, having the same process, whether you're a one-time engagement or you're going to be a long-term client, doing the actual cleanup work, and then what are the deliverables to close out that engagement. And so I think just framing your process in those 3 steps is going to be a great start to a great process. So first up, we're going to talk about onboarding. These are some of the steps. We're going to go through each of them. But overall, I never take an engagement without looking at the file first, because people tell you what they think the problems are, but that's from their perspective. So they may just really exaggerate how awful it is or not tell you enough information. And so you need to look at it. And so that's where the slow down the process comes from, is to slow it down. So Lindsay, we're going to move to the next slide, and then we'll go through each of them separately. So and this is not intended as a sales process, talking to people and proposing prices and things like that. We're going to go through the process, and there can be offshoots of other things that happen in an engagement. But my process is when someone calls, we say, first, we'd like to take a look at your file, and then we will meet with you to tell you what we see. And so when I say that, I mean that you're not going to go in depth on how you're going to fix everything, but you're going to give a broad overview on talking to the client about what you see and how it's straightforward to fix, or it might be more complicated to fix. And all that other language is like too much for them. They don't want to know how you're going to fix it. They just want to know, what do you see and can it be fixed and how long it's going to take to fix. So here's our process. Most people, we deal mainly in QuickBooks Online. They can invite us as their accountant. But what started for this idea was a person called me. They wanted me to look at their QuickBooks desktop file for conversion. And I was like, how are they going to give me the backup file? And that was the first time I was like, I just need to set them up in Liscio and send it. And he sent it right that day. And we could talk about it and get them converted and those kinds of things. So that's how it started. With one-time engagements have value in getting secured documents, straightforward, quick. And when you just naturally say, we have this communication platform, I'm going to send you a link, please send me the documents. That was the most effective call that we had to then tell them what was going to be involved in that particular engagement. So the purpose of the Zoom call is to create trust and to provide information. You've just met these people. They don't know anything about you. So let's I would start, if you were the client, I'm going to put your QBO on the shared screen. I'm going to say, let's take a look at your balance sheet. So we always start with the balance sheet. And right away, you're going to see they have 5 bank accounts. All have balances, some small. You say, oh, you know, and you're just going to take a cursory review. You say, do you have 5 bank accounts? No, we only have 3. We don't use those anymore. We close them. Oh, well, they have money in them. What did you do with the money? So it's a natural question, but it's not an accounting question. It's a conversation. Now they're going to start telling you things. So they'll respond. They say, oh, we should take a look at that, and we'll close them out and make them inactive and help you out with that, right? So the next 2 things you'd say, there's going to be undeposited funds, which when we talk about the stage 2, we'll talk a little bit more about how to fix it. But in stage 1, you look at undeposited funds and say it has a balance of $10,000. I'm like, do you have $10,000 in checks on your desk? They're like, no. I'm like, well,
I'm sorry, I have to laugh.
Right?
We're all probably chuckling, right? I mean, it's right? Like, oh.
But think about what a natural question that is,
it's
right?
a really good one, yeah.
So then, but here's what's even funnier about it. One day I said that, and the guy goes, I left those checks in my gym bag. Oh. Okay.
No, they're not on the desk. They're in the gym bag.
I forgot to go to the bank. So, but do you see how that's a natural question? I didn't go deep on, well, what did you do with the undeposited? It's like, hey, is that true? Like, depending on when you're looking at it, maybe they went the next day. Oh, I went to the bank late. I'm going to go there tomorrow. But now you've had a conversation, like you noticed it. Same with accounts receivable or accounts payable, right? By being dynamic, I can move from the balance sheet and just call up the accounts receivable summary. And I just naturally say, do these people owe you money? Yeah. Like, no, all those people paid already. They paid already. Well, where's the money? And so now they don't know the functionality of the system, right? Right. But what else do you know?
Michelle, there's a couple of questions here. Would this be okay to insert them in?
Yeah.
So Rochelle is saying, this is probably more of a comment actually, but I'd love for you to comment on it. She said, I just had a referral call because they thought their bookkeeper hadn't updated the bank feed since April. The truth, when I saw the file, was that no accounts had been reconciled since May of 2019.
Okay.
I wouldn't have known that without looking at the file. So she's just validating that you really need to see the file. Then and Fred
for Rochelle,
sorry, go ahead.
For Rochelle, what I would say is, so the value of the Zoom is you can go to we were going to talk about this a little later, but the reconciliation summary, and you show them and you say, well, they weren't usually really using the tools of the system. So start to have your language of like, well, that is not an expert bookkeeper, right? They might have verified the balances online, but they didn't use the tools of the system. And here's how you're going to check them next time after I fix this. So Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, Karen is chiming in. She's saying, I think you're actually looking at my client's cleanup project. Client has not been doing the steps in the correct order and has
Yeah.
been skipping the steps. And Rochelle is saying tools of the system, love it. It's a gentle language to use, isn't it? And it's not blaming. It's like,
Well,
yeah.
And now here's what you're learning. One, okay, so forget about the actual bookkeeper. So I think our job is to teach the CEOs and how to run their business and trust, but verify that the information was done.
Mhm.
And so by teaching the business owner where to verify that everything was done for the month is a valuable piece of information. So you would say, Mr. Business Owner, Mrs. Business Owner, you want to go to this button, or you want the bookkeeper to print it out for you and show you that they've all been reconciled so that you know that the reports are valid. So now you're having a great dialogue, because so that's what I think the value of the Zoom is to go through each of those. And here's what's going to happen, because it happened to me the other day. There happened to be like 3 people from the company on it, and we were going to untangle and fix their system. And it's like what we all learn about personality tests and who wants detail and who doesn't want detail. I got to like accounts receivable, and the guy's like, good, let's just do it. So they get the trust and verify of you that you know what you're going to do, and they're confident they're going to get the results that they expect. So that's a place where I think we should all really
Great. Yeah.
put a lot of effort into this client experience. And the more documentation and talking about the systems we use and the process we have, the systems we use and the process we have make us experts. Not, oh yeah, I can do that. And so our fault, because we're busy also, we're like, yeah, we'll just clean it up. That is really hurting all of us. One, we choose things that we shouldn't because we don't understand the complexity of the job, or we don't like being engaged with the people that we said yes to. So people that are receptive to, I use this communication platform, I'm going to put tasks out there and you're going to upload things. We're going to work together. Here's how we're going to work. I'm going to drive the bus and you're going to help me get the information, is valuable. And people will look at you stronger as the experts in what you know how to do, and will look to you for information long after the cleanup is done. Any other questions before we move forward?
No, we can pepper them in. There's one that I know you're going to cover later. So
Okay.
I'm going to hold that one. Fred, I'm holding your question until later. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to look through these notes. Oh, so the last one I wanted to mention, and this is coming up more and more, is talk about e-commerce. So recently we did a cleanup this week, and I was so glad we did because it gave me some good information for my presentation. A fitness company, and he's like, Michelle, my sales are more than double what they should be. I'm like, how do you know that? He said, because Shopify says X and my QuickBooks says, well, a lot more than that. So I'm like, oh, well, that seems pretty straightforward. It sounds like, let me look at your file. So we're looking at the file. It seems that you're automatically entering the deposits as sales, and you've got Shopify connected and it's pushing over your sales. That seems like the biggest problem you have. Okay. What I didn't ask right away, and I should have, was how many payment platforms do you have in your Shopify? So I'm going to add that one into my list. I've added it for you guys, because we ended up creating different holding accounts for the different payment platforms and reconciling them out. So he's very happy with the results. And like I said at the beginning, the business owners, they know how much they make and where they earn money and where they spend money. I did my follow-up Zoom call, and when I showed him the P&L, he goes, that's about right. That's what I was expecting. That's that, right? They know that. They didn't know how I got there, but that's what they knew. Okay. So on this Zoom call, as we wrap up and we have some semblance now, this is where you're going to have to come up with a price, right? And so a lot of times we end the call and we get back to them. Like depending on how much information you gathered, some of it's very straightforward and you know exactly the way it's going to go. And you might have a price in mind, you could talk about that. But you do have a sense that it's going to move forward one way or the other, right? So a lot of times I just take the opportunity because they're on the phone. Hey, I'm going to send you this invitation to Listio. I just want to make sure you can log in. And then I'll send you some information about it. It has a scanner on your phone. Here, and I'm going to send you a proposal and then we'll move forward. And this is where the tabs are. And I kind of review that because I'm already live and it just, people don't read. People don't read. So I want to make sure they can get in. I want to show them the buttons and I'll follow up with some stuff. So that is my phase one. I think Lindsay will move to the next slide.
Oh, I think we need to go back to the proposal because I don't think we covered the proposal.
Oh, I
in the
see. Oh,
document.
yeah. Let's do
that one. We've got Lindsay driving and
Lindsay's driving for me.
And Michelle is talking, so we may have gotten a little out of sync here. Apologies, everybody. So proposal, signature, and documents.
Yes. So everyone should have an agreement, whether it's no email, you should have an agreement, right? And so there are many ways to send an agreement. Listio has a feature, proposal signature, in a document list. We're using Practice Ignition. There's a lot of other tools, but no matter what, you should have an agreement on what you're going to do and what the price is going to be. And then once it's signed, our process would be that's the platform where we're going to be able to request information from the client in a very specific way. So we're using the task section. And in this recent cleanup that I had, this guy never met me. I said, do you have PDFs of all your bank statements and things? He had a very straightforward account. He's like, yeah. So he had to go back to work, so I didn't get to invite him on the Zoom. I just sent him the task. And by the end of the day, he had just uploaded everything and there it was. And then the person who's going to work on it could get it done. So I'm liking the task feature very, very much. And I'm finding that people are being receptive to it. The other thing that a lot of people won't use right away, but I'm finding value in it for one-time clients is password vaults. So many of us have our own password vaults that we've used for a long time. And basically you set up a vault per client and all their passwords are in there and then you can invite your team. Great process. But in this particular instance this week, I needed the Shopify password. I needed to check the mapping. I needed a couple other passwords. And I just sent him a task and I'm like, can you just, give us some access to that right away? I don't need, and I didn't have to invite anyone else. It was there for the teammate to get logged in and we could finish the job without having to create a vault and have other people have access because I only need it for that one-time engagement. And so that seemed to be a great place to put it. So think about that as an extra step. And I think over time, it'll be a migration for a lot of the things we do, especially if you have like one or two passwords, right? So that's yes.
There's a question here that I think is really relevant from Fred. How do you price your engagement? Do you price by the hour or flat fee?
So, Fred, I am a strong proponent of a fee. And that's why I think everyone, what I've heard from a lot of peers is we don't know what we're going to get into. We don't know how it's going to work out. And I'm going to challenge us all as experts in our field to put some parameters around the job. And when you have a process, you can put some parameters around the job and estimated hours, or this is how much it's going to be. And you can say for a company this size, for one bank account, you can start to get some pricing around it. Now, with anybody you ever talk to about value pricing, you never get it right every single time. But when you set up a line of communication and not just a proposal, then you have the ability to really go back and say, this is like, we just did not identify this bigger problem. Now, that could just be a separate engagement and you clean it up the way you've agreed to. And then it has a second layer of an SOW. But I don't know, Fred, what are your thoughts on that? How have you been doing it to date?
Yeah, I think we don't have the ability to bring Fred in live, but he's asking,
yeah,
how do you maintain the discipline not to let scope creep? I think you just answered that. Is like you really define the parameters of what's there and what's not, and what you're going to do, what you're going to touch, and what you're not going to touch. I think is that.
But and I would add to that, the reason that I am strongly working on a cleanup process is to be better defined about what the price is going to be, right? Yeah. To really force yourself. So by looking to the past of the clients you've had and where it's gone like haywire, you can find the standardization. You can absolutely find the standardization on what you're willing to put a price on. And there might be the one or two you're like, whoa, that's too many years, or it's too many. You're going to have to decide for yourself, and we're all going to collectively help each other with ideas on how we've done it. But think about the client. So this is a webinar about client experience. As a client, I just want to know what it's going to be. What is the price going to be for me to get the tool that I need?
And how long is it going to take?
And how long is it going to take?
Yeah.
So this guy, and he was smaller, he was new in business. It was going to be a 1-year cleanup. It was just a little scrambled up, right? So it was a price. And then I think whatever price you think in your gut, like add 10% to it, because it's like, renovating your house, it's always going to be more. So just, but try. I think really try. And at the end of this presentation, I think list out your process and what it takes, the time up front, what you're going to get into in a cleanup project in the middle, and then how you're going to wrap it up. But then don't be short-sighted about what you might get for the long haul. Yeah. And that is my objective. I think acquisition is a lot of effort, and this is a solution or an opportunity to get that long haul engagement by just having a decent price to get it cleaned up and get them to know you. You can get bookkeeping out of it. You can get advisory work, where they could go with budgets, how you can help them in their business. And the opportunity to talk at the beginning and the end helps you with that. It absolutely helps you with that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of comments coming in about pricing. So it feels like we could probably have like a whole course on that pricing. Yeah, I know we've got quite a bit more to cover, but I just want to kind of like, Karen says, well, pricing based on what a regular month could look like, maybe add a markup for extra scope of cleanup. Lisa says she learned the hard way. Hourly does not work in the beginning. Flat fee all the way for the acquisition. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and got a lot of people joining it. A lot of people agreeing.
And that's why I said at the beginning, we are all experts in our particular fields or our particular industries or niches that you might work in. There's so much content out there about which way you want to go. But I'm just going to challenge you all to look at your run rate of experience and what do you know? And on average, that you have a gut feel in your business and you should try to use it. And, so maybe one day you spent a little more hours on something than something else. But that value of what you spent and what you gave to somebody will help you either with a referral. Like, don't be short-sighted on the one thing that you think you lost on, but have your proposals in such a way that you pause and say, whoa, this is a lot more. We uncovered XYZ and we need to talk about this. So I think it's on us as business owners to really think about it a lot stronger. We do know the answers. We're just afraid to say the number out loud. So in some ways, saying an hourly rate doesn't say, your project's going to cost $5,000. That's how much it's going to be. And they're like, what? Well, you got 2 years, you got this, whatever you're going to say. You already knew the number, but you were afraid to tell them because you thought that they were going to say no. And I'm just suggesting that you say a number up front so that they know. So that's my opinion.
We love it. I think you're getting a lot of agreement. I was also thinking as you were saying this, Michelle, just really quickly, because I know we got to move on for timing, but I was thinking also, you don't discount what you're learning as well.
Right.
If you uncover something in this cleanup, you can factor it into the next one, right? Because you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Okay, think
Well,
about it for the
so
next one.
right. So my guy with the Shopify, right? So
Yeah, you
and
didn't ask how many he had, right?
right. Well, now I'll ask up front so I get the information earlier. But I also, what is your team learning? Like, what are the other hidden gems, if you will, that is going to propel you forward? So I think that we as an industry, we're just like ticking and tying and being like, oh, we didn't make money on that. So there's a balance, and we
Yeah,
need to figure that out and really learn from it and know where you want to go with it. So
yeah,
so that's really what this
very
is
good.
about. And I think Allison and Licio putting on webinars about how we can better be client driven, client experience driven, is going to help us, because that is the differentiator. And I will tell you that our clients, we do not have a lot of turnover. We've had people for a very long time because I'm genuinely interested in what they're building and what they're doing, and we want to help them.
Yeah,
Right. And so if you don't have that mindset and that's not how you want to work, then that's okay. But if you do have that mindset, practice that and good will come of it.
absolutely.
All right. So
All
now
right.
we're going to talk
Should
about
we go
doing
to
the actual work.
let's go to the next slide. Oh yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Now we're getting into really doing it.
So
Okay.
we're going to do it. So
Boom, boom.
there are many places on the internet you can learn about this through many of our peers. So in December, we just moved to ClickUp, and I'm going to just tell you, game changer, people. For the reason is it's a list driven task manager, and
We
it
love
is.
our lists, don't we?
And so one of my goals was to have standard operating procedures that I could write lists for. And so I have perfected my list for the onboarding for this course. Um, uh, and so we're creating a template, and what we're doing is we have the task and it's a template, and I'm continuing to put examples on what might be going on with undeposited, or what, and they're real examples, right? So now when I delegate to somebody, they're going to look for those real examples, and I don't have to help them every single time. So if you want a copy of the list, we are going to offer it. You can email me at info@vilmsconsulting.com. We're going to charge $25 for it. We put a lot of time into it, but certainly connect with me, and I will continue the conversations on this, I'm sure, well after this webinar. So we use the project manager. We use client facing. Everything we do client facing is in Licio for messaging, tasks, and I mentioned we're now moving to the passwords, but all the files are there. And so sometimes they upload files and they're not all cataloged right. Well, okay, that's our job. It's not their job to catalog everything right. So whoever's on the project team is going to catalog, make sure they have the right tags. So, if we have to go back to it, we're going to know how to find it. So some of the burden is on us. They're not going to use our tools exactly the way that we use them. But so on our ClickUp project list, we have a section called client. Like, what's the client going to do? Because I started to realize that all of the tasks in bookkeeping have to be done. And we, as the owner of the project, should know what parts the client is doing, right? And so I used that method for our onboarding process and said, okay, these are the things we need from the client. So those are the client tasks. And then when they engage with us, we know that those are the ones that we want to put in Licio on the task manager so they can upload the files there. That is working very, very well. And they know how to communicate with us. If they send us an email, I'm getting out of email. I'm practicing getting things done. Empty email box. I'm down to like 10 at the end of the day, which I think is super awesome. But I don't want the information in email because I can't delegate it to my team. And I'm sorry. So I put that.
No worries at all. Don't worry. Don't worry
Sorry.
about the phone. We
You know,
have phones. We have dogs barking. We have children
it's
coming
like
in.
crazy, right?
We
So
don't care. We don't care.
so today I was telling Allison earlier, I had somebody that I'm going to engage with. He sent me 3 files after I hung up the phone call, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with those? So I set up his file in Licio, and I popped him in there, and I got rid of the email because I don't want it in my email. I can't tell a team
Not
member.
trackable, is it?
Not trackable. I don't know where it is. So
Yep.
everything in my email box has a place. One of those places is Lisio, because it's files, and we have started, if they're new, I just print the email and I upload it with a PDF email file tag so that I can just keep the document. Everyone's going to have their own style. Any questions on getting started so far? I'm just going to tap into it.
Yeah, no, everybody's pretty excited about the onboarding, the ClickUp. We had a number of people who asked for your email, and I incorrectly gave it in the chat, and then Lindsay helped me with it's info@vilmsconsulting.com, right?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
That would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So email Michelle, and she'll give you that, especially if you're using ClickUp, because it requires some setup. Right?
It requires some
the Lisio
setup.
side's super easy, but the ClickUp side, you really have to kind of know what you're doing.
You really, but here's what I was thinking is everything that we do needs a checklist.
Yeah.
And I think when we were talking about pricing with Fred, right? Everything that we do, if we start to create these checklists with scenarios that might happen, it helps us with pricing. If we start to create the checklist and we get notes from the Zoom meeting in the beginning, we have a place to put them about something unique about that job. And so it all starts to tie together on, and did we miss anything? Like, I'll give you an example that I skipped over. Who decided to put uncategorized assets as a default account in QuickBooks? Okay. I've heard from many of you, we automatically recorrect it to say, so Allison, you may or may not know, you can't make that an inactive account. So we just automatically say, do not use.
Do not use.
Because it's a default and it's very hard to correct in a cleanup.
Yeah.
But those are examples. So now we have that on the checklist to say, did you look at uncategorized? Because you should really look at that before you're going to reconcile the bank statement.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of agreement on well, some people have renamed it Ask My Accountant.
Yes, that is a method as well. So we're going to walk through the balance sheet first. The next slide. We put a lot of checklists here just so you guys could read through it, but I'm going to go through it. Now, here's the one takeaway that I have changed my language. And so we're talking about client relations. So how can we change our language so we don't sound like accountants? I'm going to tell you, it is the word reconciliation, because clients do not know what that word means.
It's a scary word.
I'm convinced it is just in the accountant language. So I'm going to recommend, this is my big tip. I'm going to recommend that you start catching yourself saying it, and you say to client, we are asking you for these documents because we need to take every account. Now you're on the Zoom, right? We need to take every account in this balance sheet and verify it to an outside source. And why do we want to do that? We want to do that because we need to validate the data. Is everything in there? Did anything get missed? Was there a hiccup with Amex, or something didn't get ported in right? Or are there duplicates? So we need to verify every single thing on this balance sheet. And that's how you're going to know that we cleaned up your file correctly. So I'm going to ask you for a variety of things. And so here's the list, but a couple of things I want to point out. Bank statement's pretty standard. Credit card's pretty standard. Sales tax, it's a giant sales tax account full of, if it's a big number, that maybe they haven't filed their sales tax, or maybe they expensed all the payments, right? So those are little things you're going to put on the checklist. But the one I really want to point out in terms of security, so Lisio has great security. And if you do not have a payroll platform, the accountant platform, so I use a platform from 3 of them. I think Gusto, ADP, Paychex has an accountant platform. Why is that important? I have a team. The client invites me, I delegate out to who can see that information. And all the other ones, I don't know, but no one should email the payroll report. And we all know that, but the clients are going to be like, oh, what the hey? You're going to say, I'm keeping your data secure. Here's the task to upload the payroll reports. Do not email me, right? So that to me is very important. But if you are using a lot of payroll data, you should also consider the payroll platforms. which is just a huge relief to getting things done. Okay, auto loans. And then we talked a little bit earlier about reviewing accounts receivable and accounts payable. So before the webinar, Bill sent in a question, and Bill, I'm going to use you as an example to help you out. And then if you're on live mode, if you have feedback as we go along. So accounts receivable can be tricky. And as I was thinking about your question, I was like, when you start a cleanup, you should not start with reconciling the bank and credit cards first. The order should actually be review accounts receivable and accounts payable, because those are interrelated into the bank register. So to answer your question, you're going to look at accounts receivable. If the client has said, none of these people owe me, what do you know? You know that they didn't receive the payments against those accounts. And when they entered the deposits from the bank feed, they most likely recorded them as sales. That's probably true. So you have two choices. You have a couple choices. One is, if that is the overarching answer, you could delete the deposits because you want to receive the payments to each of those invoices, put them to undeposited funds, and then enter them and do it the right way. So that's one. And again, it's going to depend on volume and how you want to set up your account. Now, if all of the deposits were 1-for-1 or not too full of checks, you could go to that deposit and just line item them from you can open up the deposit, but instead of making it go to sales, you could choose accounts receivable. Now this is going to be a two-step process. You're going to update those deposits to not go to sales or reclass them. They need to go to accounts receivable. But as you guys know, if you're going to go to accounts receivable, you have to list each client that goes with it, and that will create a credit on the client's account. But then step two is you're going to have to match those payments or take the credit to the actual invoice. So it's a two-step process. So it can be one way or the other. Either you delete the deposits, make the payments, and make the deposits, or you go the reverse and you recode the deposits to accounts receivable by person. And then it's going to go as a credit, and you're going to have to flag it to the appropriate invoices. Allison, did I talk slow enough on that one?
No, you know, you did, and I'm absolutely delighted that I actually was able to follow that.
Okay, that's good.
I always use myself as a bellwether, because, you know, I mean, I have a background of being an accountant, but I haven't done it for years.
Yeah.
So I followed that. So Bill is saying thank you. He's like, genius, thank you.
Okay. So
and others can listen to the recording if they want to hear it again. They can listen to the recording. So let's keep going, because I'm just doing a time check. We've got 18 minutes left. So
okay.
And I think you've still got some pretty good meat to cover in the.
I do.
This is fabulous, though.
So, Bill, I'm just going to say one more thing. So the tip for everyone, if you're just looking for an amount, say you knew 5 invoices got double paid. The best tool in the whole toolbox, in my view, is the search button at the top right. Go to advanced, and you always do transactions all, and you search for the number, and you're going to see if it's duplicated or not, if it's entered once or twice. Or so there's many things on there. All right, let's keep going. So the P&L, I save the P&L for last. And the reason that I do is because now if the balance sheet is all cleaned up, you're gonna move to look at, I like P&L by month, because why? I am looking for consistency. How many accounts do they have? And this is where I think there's an opportunity for added value to the customer. If you see 5 accounts related to auto, or 3 accounts that really are all office expense, but they've like itemized them to death, you have an opportunity, short job, to categorize them as like parents and children, or accounts and sub accounts. And so I think instead of saying, oh, we're you know, the cleaning up the chart of accounts was not part of the cleanup job, I think there's an opportunity to do some reorganization that is helpful to the business owner, that is just a nice to have, and it's a good deliverable. So I usually look at the P&L. I'm like, why don't we group these all under office expense and like straighten it out. But then when I talk to them, we're going to talk about that in the next segment, on how to then wrap up with the client and show added value of what other things you can do. Okay, so I think we'll move to the next slide. And during the cleanup, we make 5 reports, and we're going to talk about those. And so when we're close to the end, so in the middle, I'm going to recommend each week, if it's going to take longer, send them a message through Lithio. Hey, we're still working on your account. It's going well. We're just, it was a busy week, but we're working on. Communicate, because they don't know. We're like the black hole of remote working now. So communicate, let them know it's good. Maybe you need another statement, or you have one deposit you're not sure of. Take a screenshot. Okay, the screenshot, the best thing that's going on, because you send them a picture and you say, I need the detail behind this deposit, and they will upload the checks. But so I put these 5 reports, they are still in the templated section, but I put them there because they don't have any other custom reports, so they're going to know the ones I made for them. And then along the way, we've made a bookkeeping checklist. Because why? It's nice to get something. So it's a deliverable. We just went through their account. And by the way, if they hire me, I already have half of it done, right? So so that is how we done that. Was so on the Zoom call, we're going to use those 5 reports as the agenda. Here's what we did. So I usually start out with, I'm going to use my fitness guy as an example. I said, it was exactly what we thought. The bulk of the issue was related to these double payments. And the reason it kept happening is you set up a bank rule to just put Shopify deposits to sales, but you linked to Shopify and now it was duplicated. He's like, oh, I totally get that. So that was a major problem. We fixed that. And then we did these holding accounts and we reconcile them. And the first thing I show them is that summary, because now we're talking about it. Like, these are all the accounts that we had to verify to outside sources. Notice that I stuck that in, right? So outside sources. So now he knows. And I said, if you're going to do this yourself, then you know what you've done. If you're going to have someone else do it, you need to check that list so you know they did their work. Getting back to the question from earlier. So the other thing, I'm going to go back to stage 1. If you're listening to someone and you know that they do not know how to use the system, they absolutely do not, then at the beginning of the job, I'm going to recommend this. You offer, as part of the wrap up, a training session. And here's how we do it. It came out of a lot of advice from different webinars from some of our peers, but we have what we're calling is just a product that's a service wrapped in, like, here's what we do. So it is 3 hours of training. So realize people, they fade out after an hour. So it's like an hour and a half. Like, don't be rigid on the time. It's an hour-ish. So it's about 3 hours. Sometimes it's 2 hours, but it's an hour in the beginning. And then you get 30 days of messaging through Lithio. And then you have an hour at the end. And my goal is I taught you how to do the bank feed and reconcile the banks. And I want to see if you knew how to do it and if you had any questions. We are having tremendous success with that, because it's not like, here's your fixed file, good luck with that, or I don't have to re-engage them. So use the Zoom call to really think about if they need that. It is a set time, and you don't have to teach them all about QuickBooks. You're teaching them how to enter the bank feed, how it really works, how to reconcile your bank. This is what we're going to show you, and these are the reports you run that we already made. And now you have the opportunity to reconnect with them. And really, it's not 2 extra hours, because your closing Zoom call generally is the closing Zoom call and the training. In my experience, that's what's ending up happening. It's not 2 separate meetings. How's that, Allison? Is that a good idea for a little added upsell?
Well, I'm all for the, being efficient, and absolutely. I love the fact that you're rolling in the training with the closing call. We are getting some interest on the chat and the questions on about your monthly bookkeeping checklist. Is that something that you might make available to people?
Yeah. We can make that
People
available.
can email you if they want that. Okay, great.
Yeah. Just email me what you need, and we'll make it available.
Yeah. Now, Teresa is asking how long overall your standard cleanup takes. So there's a lot of stuff you can't do in an accountant copy. It seems like the client needs to keep moving forward while you're working in the weeds, or are you in their system remotely? So I think she's asking like kind of a desktop versus that kind of would depend, wouldn't it? Right? Desktops is that accountant's copy. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, so you don't really work too much with desktop, do you? You pretty much only take it
I
to
will tell
the
you that if you call me with a desktop issue, I would absolutely, unless you are manufacturing or construction in my capacity of what I want to do in my firm, I would convince you for me to convert you
there you go.
online and clean it up. That's
Yeah.
how I do it. But to answer your question about timing, someone's going to give you their backup. You're like, please don't work in the desktop and give me you have to give them a time frame. Give
Yeah.
me a week, and then save up your transactions, and I'm going to use those to train you. So absolutely do not squish it all in together. Here's a cleanup, and you're going to need this training. I think you just need 1 or 2 hours. If you need something else, we'll talk about it when we're done.
Yeah.
And use that opportunity as a way for more business. And so the bookkeeping checklist, here's what's going to happen. Here, you're going to give it to them, and you're going to say, this is what you should be doing every month. You should be, when you drink your coffee, I would say when you drink your coffee, enter your transactions, and then, once a month, check your bank statements, print them out, save them. And they're not going to do it. But having the training session and asking them 30 days later, they're like, I just don't want to do it. How much for you to do it? Oh, well, we should talk about that. Or it gives you another opportunity. Or they do it for 6 months and they grow and like, I'm ready to have somebody else take it on. You guys did great work. We really loved working with you. So those are my feedback on the closing, and there's a lot to talk about the middle, and I would love us to have like just a powwow to talk about cleanup scenarios and how they've all been solved. And I think that's a whole webinar in itself. This one was about the client experience
Yeah.
as it relates to cleanups. And I just think there's tremendous opportunity for us to continue to think about how the clients feel. And, I think there are many look in your own life when you are the client and asked to do something, whether it's a consultant you hire, or in your personal life you're doing something and they ask you for data and you're paralyzed because you're like, I don't know how to log into this or find that, and there's too many passwords, or like whatever it is. Use that in your own business to make it simpler for our client experiences, and talk to them in English and not accounting jargon, and really help them understand they do know their business. They do. And they just need help, and they want to be better, but they don't know the right questions. So we need to just move them along and give them a little bit more than they asked for, or show them on the Zoom calls what they really need, and further the discussion on other engagements that you can have. So I want to wrap up. Your technology really helps. And we are very pleased. Like I told you about my exciting thing on ClickUp. Love Lisio. We're using it more and more. Number one, because my team absolutely from day one was, this is a go and we're going to make everybody do it. And we are on it. But more so, I'm seeing even with these initial engagements, there's a place to put things. And our clients are really receptive to the fact that we are experts and we have a system and we have a process, and we're going to take care of them. And so definitely check it out. I think there's a slide in here. It's secure, invitation only. People are liking the scanner. People are mobile, and so they're looking on their phone, and they don't have to get an email from me that's buried in all of their other emails. I don't have a lot of experience with the e-signature, but people have liked that. The storage is great. They're linked up to like Google Drive and OneDrive. So there's a lot of opportunity to continue to expand and use that in your firm. So I hope that you learned a lot today, but I'm always interested in your thoughts. My email is out there. Definitely connect with me.
Yeah, I think this was amazing. We're getting a ton of comments coming in just saying that there's so much content here that people feel like they need a little bit of time to absorb it, which is
Okay.
great. No problem. We'll be sending out the recording to everybody. And we'll also do a PDF of the slides as well, Michelle, so that they can kind of just see the
Yeah.
order and the flow, and have some, I guess, paper if they want to,
Yeah.
print anything out. But we do have a couple of minutes here. We've got about 5-6 minutes if people still want to ask questions. Ufoma was asking about the custom reports that you set up for
Oh,
the. So is there a specific list? I know we had a slide a couple of.
yeah, we can slide back. I think
That one was a key report, P&L. Are these the custom ones that you do for them, or do you do is this just what you review for them?
These are the custom ones, and like I said, they're in the templates of QuickBooks Online, but I like to move them over, put the right name on the report. I like to take out the cents, make it a little consolidated, and so it's not that difficult from our world, but to them, I was able to say, we created this for you, and here's where you find it. There's probably 100 templates out there. They don't know. I'm going to tell them do year over year. They're going to be like, what? So I just put a set. Your set may be different than mine. So for example, if someone talked to me about inventory, I might add in summary by product. Here's what you could see. And they'll be like, well, that's wrong. Oh, well, maybe we should look at fixing that. Tell me what you see. Always say to someone, tell me what you see. Watch where they look.
Yeah.
So it tells you so. So year over year with comparative dollar amount change, they're like, oh, no, it's important that you know why it changed. It's just important that you know why it changed. And if you know the answer, then that's okay. If you don't know the answer, that's where we should look into it. Right? So does it feel right to you that sales are down? Does it, you spent this right in the recent past, you spent less on travel. That makes sense. So just giving them comfort. See how I did that in a language, not accounting terms, over and under budget. It's so the comparison and helping them. And here's what's going to happen. Just like you guys, we spent a lot of information here. You're going to review the slides. They're going to review the reports. They're going to get comfortable, and they're going to have a question. They're not going to have a question right away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I love I just want to recap, Michelle, and just say that a couple things just really jumped out at me as you and I were discussing this presentation. And there's a few things that I just want to leave the team with, this group of people. One is that your tone and the words that you use really, really matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being very, very, empathetic and very gentle with your clients. The second thing is using that, that your bookkeeper or the owner or whoever hasn't been using the system as it was designed to be used.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's just like a really gentle thing. And then the other thing is, walking them through that process where you have a specific way of doing it in your business and with your team, and just making sure that you have that all documented and you move people through, is really, it just makes it very, very seamless and very easy for everybody. By the way, Lindsay just lost her internet. So we're having a day today, aren't we? We're having a day today. And so this is life on Zoom in the pandemic, isn't it? Yeah. But I want to thank you again. We still have we have maybe time for one more question. Oh, getting a few questions about Liscio. Just super fast, guys. You can it's so easy. Just go to the website and request a demo there. And the pricing's just super simple. We only just charge per the accountant seat. So you can just run as many of these one-time gigs through there. You don't have to worry about getting extra licenses or anything. Just super simple. And then I think for our next presentation, Michelle, we should maybe do a deeper dive into, okay, here's how you fix AR. Here's how you. I
know. Yeah. And it may be
or maybe that should be on the QuickBooks side. I don't know, but we could.
I don't know. I think it's more like, let's be the experts we are. And so think about the middle section as we should help each other and give each other tips and tricks and really work through it. But for this presentation, we look at the beginning and the end, and what do we want to be a really great experience? And people will come back to you, and you'll be the expert in your area, because people will just rave about not being afraid of accounting.
Yeah. And then how many, just out of interest, how many people have you actually converted to, you've done the cleanup for, and then you convert to
You know,
ongoing?
I went back and we hold on to about 90% of the people. Some people might
90%.
have, because it manifests in different ways. If someone already has a bookkeeper, I'm like, can we train them?
Yeah.
And then maybe the bookkeeper leaves like, we don't really want to hire someone. Like, so
Yeah.
longer term connections lead lead to something. So they don't all result in ongoing bookkeeping right
Yeah.
away, but they are touch points and avenues.
And the nice thing is that very likely that client is going to keep Lisio on their phone.
Yeah.
And so they can ask you questions and then you can say, oh, well, let's set up an engagement for that, right? Yeah.
Right. Well,
So
one of
it's
the
a good,
features we used, and you just triggered this for me, is if you have all these other people in there and you have something like you want to talk about the SBA or some big announcement, you can do a bulk send to anyone that is
all
in,
your Lisio,
and,
all your
and,
Lisio
and
contacts.
it's a
Yeah.
blind send, so it's not, it's not like a mass email. It's an individual comment, and
Yeah.
we've used that for various things that we want to just inform people.
PPP,
Oh,
all sorts of things. Yeah.
yeah, PPP, or and so those were good. Like, oh, do you want to just see what the forgiveness form is going to look like? That's relevant to everyone. It doesn't matter if I'm doing. So that actually is a good way to capture. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
It's in there now.
All right. Well, that's a see, this is what I love about our customers, because Michelle's been using Lisio for a long time. And it was just like when she shared with us that she uses it for cleanup jobs, we thought this is a fantastic webinar because it's just so useful no matter what tool you're using. So I want to thank everybody, especially Michelle, for sharing your expertise and being so generous with your knowledge. And let's just share that email again. It's info@vilmsconsulting.com
Yes.
if people want your checklists, and they can just connect with you directly there. Everyone else, we have your email. We will be sending you a recording and the PDF. And our huge thanks for joining us today. All right, I'm going to end the webinar now. And thank you, Michelle. And thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful, busier season.
Awesome.
Okay,
Have a good day.
bye, everyone.